Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and look, it's my son Jason and Connor Nielsen. And today, hold on, I'm trying to get the music turned on. Okay, there we go. Today, we're going to tell you how we felt about Sony's new, highly anticipated Spider-Man universe sort of spin-off movie of a character who hasn't been in a Spider-Man movie yet, Madam Web. And
how has she not been in a Spider-Man movie yet? I mean, I've been waiting for a long time for this.
You know, I think we've had so many Spider-Man movies, it's the last big A-list supporting Spider-Man character that's not been in a Spider-Man movie yet, so it seems high time that she just got her own film.
Yeah, exactly.
I fully support this.
Yes.
Sony is going to win the year this year for Spider-Man movies, or for Spider-Man movies, for superhero movies, if they get, and I guess sort of for Spider-Man movie, or movies tangentially related to Spider-Man, if they get everything out that's supposed to come out this year. We've talked about this before, but I want to revisit it real quick and just reiterate. MCU has been reworking things real hard and changing their slate and putting stuff off. So we're getting one MCU movie this year, and it's Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
And then the DCEU has shut down and is rebooting. So the only DC movie we're getting this year is Joker.
Oh.
And then we've got three movies coming from Sony. All tangentially related to Spider-Man, but without Spider-Man.
What's the third one?
And so Venom 3 is supposed to come out this year, and we haven't heard a lot about that yet, so I don't know if that's really going to happen, but it's supposed to.
Oh.
And then Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah.
Is supposed to be this year. And was supposed to originally, I think, Connor, am I right about this? I think that was originally supposed to come out before this.
It was originally supposed to come out in October, I think. But
well,
because of the
this was
strikes,
at one point slated for October.
Yeah, I think both of these have been delayed at least once.
Yeah, a lot. And with this, and I'm sure Kraven had this too, or I wouldn't be surprised, but with this, it was a lot of reshoots. They changed the entire, I don't want to get too ahead of myself yet, and I don't know if you read about this, they changed the entire time period of when this is set with reboots. Or with reshoots.
Wow, I had not heard that.
Yeah, it's wild. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Hey, I want to handle things a little bit differently today with this one. I made kind of the tongue-in-cheek joke that this was highly anticipated. It seems like nobody on planet Earth is interested in this movie. Like nobody. People don't know why it was made. People are don't know this character in the first place, and then when they say the trailer is like that's not exciting them. It's still that awkward thing because the movies that Sony's made so far with this material have been odd, and it was just a big joke. With the Venom movies have made money for whatever reason, but it was a real joke when Kraven came out. So this has the same kind of meme baity thing that does. So I'm wondering how many people watching tonight or even after the fact, and welcome, thanks for being here, guys. If you're watching right now, and thanks for coming after the fact. I'm wondering how many people in our audience will have even seen this as we talk about it. So there were a couple different ways we could take it. We could not do the spoiler cast thing hardly at all and just do the how we felt about thing and tell people whether or not they should go see it. I know there's a lot of spoilery things Jason really wants to get off his chest with this movie, yes. So we're definitely going to spoil things tonight. So the other way to go would be full-on spoiler cast, and just kind of explain the movie to people that probably haven't seen it. So we're going to do the non-spoiler thing very, very quickly. And I guess my first question would be, before I ask Connor to try to give us a plot synopsis with this, good luck, Connor, is anybody here going to flip green? I'm just going to ask the question right now. Is anybody going to actually flip green on this?
No.
Okay. No.
Not even going to be like an ironic flip?
No.
Okay.
No.
And neither will I. So people know whether we are recommending this movie. We're not recommending this movie. No. Although, show of hands, would this at all be a recommend at least for the so bad it's good thing, or you might enjoy how terrible this is?
Yes.
Okay, so Jason will at least give it that. I'm not going to give it that either. That's our review, folks. Thanks a lot for watching. We're going to close up shop right now.
Yeah, and I will elaborate on that later.
A little bit later,
on
okay.
My sign flip and stuff.
So, Connor, that was the non-spoiler section.
All right.
So now, absolute spoilers. So if you don't want to know anything beyond our recommendations, I'm even going to let Connor do spoilers in the synopsis, because I think we're going to want to do a little bit more synopsis maybe than we usually do.
Okay.
With this one. So feel free to be more informative this time if you want to, Connor. But I'm sure we'll also have plenty of synopsis as we're discussing the movie. So I don't mean to put you on the spot. Don't feel like you have to also give us every nook and cranny with this. But let's hear whatever kind of synopsis Connor wants to give us, and then we'll go to sign flips. Go ahead, Connor.
Okay. We open in 1973, the Peruvian Amazon, where a woman is researching spiders in the Amazon right before she died, and she's pregnant, and then she dies because a guy shoots her after she finds the spider, and then these superheroed Peruvian spider people, assist her with the childbirth as she dies, and then 30 years later, this baby grows up to be Dakota Johnson, a woman named Cassandra Webb. She is an EMT in New York City, and then she is she's partnered up with a man named Ben Parker, who just met somebody, and his sister is Mary Parker, who's having
Sister-in-law.
a baby named. Anyways, so on one of their EMT runs, she has a near-death experience, and then she starts being able to glimpse into the future a little bit. It's like she's like existing, and then all of a sudden she'll jump back in time. It's never specified if it's like 2 minutes or 30 seconds or however long. But anyway, she starts to realize that she can see in time a little bit. Anyways, as this is happening, the guy who killed her mother in the Amazon, he has this vision of of himself dying at some point with three young women in Spider-Man adjacent costumes, and so now he's like, I gotta kill them before they have powers, and so he's hunting them down, and then Cassandra Webb also just happens to know these three women before they have Spider-Man powers or spider powers or powers of any kind, and so she's trying to protect them as this guy. They call him Ceiling Guy. So Ceiling Guy is going to try and get them, and then she's got to protect them. And then eventually they save the day because the hero fights the bad guy with a Pepsi Cola sign, with the help of a Pepsi Cola sign. And then no one gets powers, and then someone gets blind, and then the bad guy dies. The end. It's kind of like the Terminator in Final Destination, and it's clearly reshot 2 or 3 times. So that's Madam Web. Take this away, Jason.
Oh man, that was excellent. Well done, Jason. So like I said, I'm gonna have you guys go first. Tell us how you felt about the saga of Madam Web and Ceiling Guy.
So his name is actually like Ezekiel the Sims.
Yeah.
He's Ezekiel Sims. He's the Sims, and he speaks Simlish.
So
Ezekiel
okay. is so real quick, just in case you don't know, Ezekiel is a Spider-Man villain.
Oh, okay.
And he was created by JMS. They pull from some of the JMS totem stuff in this, and JMS, I guess, like, read an early draft or saw early stuff with this and went on record to say that, like, their Ezekiel is kind of a cross between what he did in Moreland. There's also some Moreland in this because he's hunting the Spider-Man characters.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he speaks,
but for an even less interesting reason than Moreland.
Yeah, and what's funny is the actor is like actually speaking Simlish, and so they had to dub over with English to make the movie work. We'll get into that. Sign flip. No, I already said this. No, this movie is an absolute train wreck.
And like, we didn't expect it to be good or anything.
Right.
Of course. I mean, like, all cards on the table. It's not like we walked into this excited or anything.
No.
But were you shocked at all by what you were seeing?
Yes. This I guess I'll just go into best thing, worst thing. I'll start with worst thing.
Where do we begin?
Worst thing is just writing like overall, I don't like this kind of plot. I don't like the kind of like, oh, we have to protect these kids from this bad guy. Like, I don't like, and you know, the kids are whiny and like stuff like that. I just don't like those kinds of plots. And this does that very well. But by very well, it does it. It's the villain is really lame. It's a really contrived script. And the dialogue is like half of it is just stuff that you would expect to see in a trailer. Like there's a lot of like trailer dialogue in the script, and it drove me crazy. And then it's also
really
just,
easy
like,
to cut a trailer for, though.
yeah, like 50. There are.
And it's Sony, so I mean, I wouldn't have been shocked if there were that many, or if there was one that was like 7.5 minutes long.
That's true.
There was only one trailer for this movie.
Yeah,
They only cut one trailer. That's it.
And we can speculate as to why, like, how much of it is they actually knew how awful this was, and how much of it was they had such terrible response to Morbius that they've sobered up a little bit. It's a question. Anyway, sorry, good.
But I feel like with the dialogue, like none of the characters feel real, and like the dialogue's like every line is super forced, and the characters just kind of feel like they're there to keep the plot moving. And I don't know, just I had so many questions with writing, and also, you know how a movie can be, you know, kind of slow and like really like slow going, and it's just gets boring. This movie is the exact opposite of that, and is like way too fast, and I just don't even know what's happening half of the time.
But also boring.
Yeah. Well, I don't know
Okay, so
if you
boring was not the experience you had.
No, I didn't have that experience. If you take a bathroom break, it feels like half of the movie is gone on without you. I don't know.
That's
like,
awesome. Did you? Okay, and you said that you would sort of recommend it as a like so bad it's good sort of movie.
Yeah.
So you didn't actually want to. So like the train wreck was like interesting bad to you.
Yeah,
Because you just couldn't believe it was even happening.
It was. I thought it was entertaining. I thought
Okay.
it was like an entertaining bad because it was just really bad. With, you know, like I said, script and editing and cast and everything like that.
You're not alone. I'm hearing that from people.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the experience I had with it, but I'm hearing that from people.
Well, that's what I had, and that is a good segue into my best thing, which this movie is, it's just the good things from this movie aren't good. The good things are like terrible. They're hilariously terrible. They're like embarrassing terrible. They're like I don't know how they could pull together the confidence to show this to the public. Terrible. My best thing is the ending. I laughed for a solid the last 10 minutes of the movie just because of how insane it is. And it's
And you don't
amazing.
mean just the climax, you mean the epilogue.
I mean, yeah, the climax and the epilogue. There's a big fight scene with fireworks going on, even though they only planted like 10, and they go on for like 5 minutes straight.
Well, to be fair, I think they're in a fireworks factory. I think that's why that happens.
But like, I don't
It
know,
also
they
looks
set off
hilarious.
a few, and they don't look good, and then they make her blind. Like, that's what makes her blind, is fireworks.
Connor, there were only like 3 other people in our theater, and I was like maybe talking a little bit more often than I usually would in a theater. Like, you know, I was real quiet, and we were very far away from everybody else, so I don't think they could hear us. But during that sequence, I could not help but occasionally go.
The sound effects were amazing.
They're amazing. Talk about. Oh, I'm sorry. You still got to do your worst thing.
I did my worst thing.
I
did my worst thing, but my best thing is the ending.
I'm sorry. What was your?
My worst thing was just writing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Talk about the Ezekiel voice sync
Okay,
thing.
so I don't even know.
Did you have this, Connor? So we wanted to make sure it wasn't just us. I'm not convinced, because I don't know that actor. I'm not convinced that his voice was really that actor, that it wasn't somebody else who came in and voiced over him.
Yeah, so it's just like a dub, and you.
But the whole 100% of his dialogue,
all of it is dubbed, and it's like and you could tell that they knew too, because you barely see his face when he's actually talking.
Yes.
But when
it's always cutting away to whoever he's talking to, and they're looking at him as he's
but
talking.
But when it is,
whoa.
then he's either just doing this, or he's just like barely even, like, it's completely different syllables than what's actually happening, and I don't know what's happening.
No, it looks like a foreign language dub.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And very often, very often
they get Michael. Sorry, what's that?
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, very often it doesn't even sound like the voice is in the same room that somebody else is in. Like it's the worst ADR imaginable.
Yeah.
It sounds like they got. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the actor Michael Wincott, but it sounds like they got him to do the voiceover for this guy. Like he was in Nope. He was like the old cinematographer who comes in to help him shoot in Nope.
Oh yeah.
He sounds like this, and every line has this back of the mouth kind of way of talking, and it's like he has the same inflection for every line. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's like an early Bond girl. Like somebody else has to do all of his dialogue.
Yeah.
And ironically, that performance, that vocal performance, I don't know, it probably is still the same guy, but the way Connor's describing it is exactly right. That's exactly what it sounds like. Ironically, it's the only person who knows what he's in.
Yeah. At least the voice.
Are you good to move over to Connor?
Yes, I am. Well, wait, because, the ending is, basically, to sum it up, Simlish guy gets hit in, with the S that you saw earlier in the movie, because look, the foreshadowing, and then, he gets hit with a P, and then he dies. And then, what is this movie called? Madam Web. Cassandra gets blinded by fireworks, and also her legs stop working because of fireworks. And then we see her in her oracle chair, and she's got sunglasses that are like the dumbest looking sunglasses. And then she's like, and then they like order pizza or something, and then you see them like in the future, but I don't know how far in the future, and they have like the worst looking suits ever, especially Madam Web,
which they sold the movie on.
Yeah,
and none of that footage from the trailers is stuff that actually happens in the movie. It's either an alternate future that doesn't happen, or a future that will happen later after the movie's over.
Yeah.
Like, they sold the movie. Like, I wonder if there was ever a version of this where they all suit up in the third act and fight alongside Madam Web, or fight for her or something, because they really sold the movie like that was the ending. Like, it was going to be a big, you know, the Spider Chick team up at the end.
Yeah, and it wasn't. Like, all the posters had Madam Web with the costume on, and she never has that costume on. She only has it in the last, like, 3 minutes.
They really pitched it like and I hesitate to even say it like this, because this is just for anybody that actually knows who Madam Web is and what she's about in the comics and in the cartoon shows and stuff, but it really sells it like it's a kind of reimagining of her, like an entire reimagining of her, and it isn't really that. It's more of a like goofy origin to get her to the Madam Web we all know and love. Like, that's a big iconic character that's, like, beloved in the culture.
Yeah.
And yet, I walked into the movie going, she's gonna be planted in a wheelchair at the end, and she was.
Yep.
Connor, how did you feel about the Chronicles of Madam Web versus Ceiling Guy?
So I hated this movie. I'm trying to think like,
I'm sorry, I missed what you just said. Say that again.
oh, so I hated this movie. I'm
How
trying
many
to remember
minutes
the last
in? How many minutes in before you wanted to get up and leave?
5.
See, I was at like 10, and that's only because I was laughing at the cinematography in the opening scene with her mom so hard. And the fact
the
that
opening scene is shocking.
it's
Like,
shocking,
it is like,
and the reveal of the pregnancy, it's amazing.
it feels like a joke.
It's a
It feels
joke.
like a gag. Like it's like you frame the shot just above her baby bump. It feels like a Naked Gun joke. Like it's crazy.
And then you get the spider guys, which is even like the cinematography with that.
Where
is
they
even
start
worse.
jumping across
Yeah,
the trees.
It looks terrible.
Like, who do they think is gonna
Oh.
take this seriously?
I had like a weird uncanny experience with this movie because during certain parts of the movie I felt like I was sitting too close to the screen, which is like when the spider guys are jumping around, the camera's like doing this, and I'm like, wow, I'm getting dizzy. I'm too close to the screen. But then at other points in the movie, they're holding up pieces of paper where the writing is really small and I can't read it. I'm like, oh, I'm sitting way too far away from the screen. So, um, okay. The movie this reminded me the most of was M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender, in that it's so obviously terrible. Like if somebody were to tell me that they liked this movie, I wouldn't believe them. Now maybe that's a jerk thing to say. I don't care. Like it's just how I feel. Like it's like I cannot imagine a cognitively functioning human being watching this who has seen other movies and like without irony enjoys this movie. I cannot imagine that eventuality. It's like The Last Airbender where it's just the acting is obviously terrible. The writing is obviously terrible. The directing is obviously terrible. The editing is some of the worst I've seen. Like it's so transparently bad. And I don't know, like I don't understand the mentality that brought it to life. Like at least with Morbius. And by the way, easily worse than Morbius. But with Morbius, which is also like it lives in infamy for how terrible it is, with that movie, I can understand how it exists. It exists in this idea of, okay, this is obviously bad. So an executive said, what is this? It's an action movie. What are the action scenes? Just get all the action scenes in the movie, and whatever the scenes in between the action scenes are, just make it so that it gets to the next action scene as quick as possible. And then we cut bait and cash the check as soon as possible. That's what Morbius is. I don't even know what this is. Like, I spent so much of the movie just wondering what I was even looking at.
Yeah, I was
hold
absolutely
on,
dumbfounded.
oh yeah, so this is the worst movie I've seen, and I didn't watch a lot of movies last year, so this is probably the worst film that I've seen since Judd Apatow's Netflix film The Bubble. Or like the Netflix movie, like the Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre like Legacy sequel. But those are Netflix movies. The last time I've like gone to the theater to see something this bad or maybe a little worse, I was thinking about it. You have to go back 5 years to the 2019 Hellboy movie till I've seen something.
I knew you were going to bring that up. I knew you were going to say 2019 Hellboy. Dude, I was having a really hard time thinking of anything to compare this to that came out in a movie theater. I had exactly the same thing.
Yeah, because it's like, how did it escape?
It's a direct-to-video movie. It's
yeah. I don't have a best thing about
or a,
this. Like,
or a
if
fan
I'm
film.
What's that?
Or a fan film.
Yeah.
Like a fan film made by people that have made like 5 really terrible like independent horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because in its way, it also kind of wants to be like a Blumhouse thing. Did you have that?
Oh yeah, like it does feel like one of the ideas at one point was, okay, so you know that movie Final Destination? They talk about death being like a web. Madam Web? Let's make it like Final
Well, they keep
Destination.
doing that with iconography, where it's like every time you see a broken piece of glass, it's got a spider web, and
Yeah. And like the part where like when the bad guy is like killing people, like it does feel like a Blumhouse like slasher scene. Like I can see it like an upgrade.
well, and
Like
I got 15 minutes in the movie and went, it's very appropriate that we saw 12 trailers for crappy-looking horror movies before this movie.
yeah.
It was just like
Good
Blumhouse
call.
after Blum, and like other really cheap-looking horror movie. What was the one with the teddy bear?
Oh, Imaginary? Yeah.
Imaginary, yeah.
Yeah, did you see that? And then my sorry, I'm getting off track. I'm getting Connor off track, but this cracked me up so hard. So did you get the trailer, Connor, for the horror movie with the tarot cards?
No, I didn't. What was that one?
There's this movie where there are these teenagers that are putting down tarot cards, and then it keeps jumping to like creepy monster faces and iconography, and it's like personifying or physically realizing the stuff on the tarot cards, and I'm cracking up. It looks so bad, and I look over at Jason and I go, this is it's just gonna be called like tarot or something. And then 10 seconds later, you get the title, and it goes tarot, and I was like, nailed it.
Nice. I'm getting off track here. Like it's red sign flip. Maybe I would have found this to be a hilariously bad thing under different circumstances, but I was like, I could be at my dance studio learning how to like improve my cha-cha right now. I could be like at home watching Taxi Driver. I could be like, I just got done working 19 days in a row. Like I'm not in the mood for this. But yeah, I don't have a best thing. This doesn't have a best thing to me. I would say that it has a lot of hot people in it, but like Anyone But You is playing down the hallway, and that has more hot people in it. So, yeah. And so the worst thing about this is the villain. I'm at a loss for words, guys. I feel like you could have a very healthy YouTube channel where you could put out a video essay every week for like 2 years, and every single video essay is just the next scene of Madame Web, and it's like a dissection of why it doesn't work. The opening scene of this movie is like broken. So the bad guy, he says, I got security for you because I thought you were close to finding the spider. How does he know about the spider? I don't know. Like, he hired security, and then once she finds the spider, he kills the security. I thought they worked for him. So why did he shoot his own guys? And security, it's just two guys playing cards in the jungle. I guess that was the security. And then it jumps ahead 30 years. What is he? He has the power now. What has he been doing with this power? He doesn't want to die. Okay, but like, what's he trying to protect? What has he been doing for the last 30 years? What is he trying to save? What
was his initial motivation for getting the power in the first place? Like, did he... Because he seems kind of rich, but did he build... Because Ezekiel in the comics is like a mogul guy. Like, did he build a corporation? Did he build a fortune? Is he a public figure? He doesn't seem to be.
Idea.
He seems to be kind of behind closed doors. Why does his sidekick woman work for him and is okay with him trying to murder teenagers? She has that one moment when she finds out how young they are, which is ridiculous, by the way, because she is putting together like facial constructions of what the women in his vision are supposed to be, and they make a big deal out of like the cutting edge technology of 2003, which is ridiculous. Hilarious. Like, you won't even believe what we can do now. They
start using like 2023 AI like face predictive technology.
Maybe that's what he's been doing with his fortune. I don't know if he's got a fortune. And then she's like, and then she is the one who programs it to like get a sense of what they'll look like now, and then she surprised their teenagers. But she would have to know how far back she would be going. So she's like, oh, I didn't realize we were going to have to kill teenage girls. And then the whole rest of the movie, she doesn't seem to have any remorse or worry about that. And then you have one weird moment where he goes, if you fail me, I'm going to destroy you too. And I'm not being hyperbolic. He's a 90s Spider-Man cartoon villain, and he says destroy like 8 times.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's one of those things where, like, the only way to describe this movie is in hyperbole. Like, it is so terrible.
Yeah.
And, like, I feel like in terms of, like, a lot
Like,
of
I don't
bad
want to
movies
go
that
to
come out.
worst superhero movie ever made, but it has to be in the conversation now. Probably just because it somehow got released in a movie theater.
Look, I was making, like, today, like, I was, like, at, like, getting, like, brunch, and I'm, like, coming up with a list, and I'm like, this has to be in the top 5 worst superhero. So I've actually today was drafting up a list of, like, the 20 to 30
I wanted
worst
to do
superhero
that
movies.
too.
It's in my top 5 worst super, like, it's so bad. Yeah, so by the way, his sidekick, like, his evil, like, minion girl, I don't know if you guys had this thought, but, like, did she ever, like, go to sleep or, like, go to the bathroom or, like, do anything to, like, be at a monitor? Because he always, like, talks at her like he knows she will only be at this monitor.
She might as well be an
station.
AI or something.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Anyways,
that's hilarious. But yeah, I kept trying to figure out, like, why is she willing to work for him? Because he's like, if you fail me, I'll kill you. And I'm like, is she kind of like a prisoner? Is she kidnapped? Is she like, is he blackmailing her? Is like, what is her motivation? And what's funny is, like, the villain is just a motivation. Like, all he is I want to stop this horrible future for me from happening. That's it. And he only reminds us what his motivation is every single time he's on screen.
Yes.
And for like 3 minutes, and he just has these long diatribes about it, like, and not an ideology, not a worldview, like nothing. Just these 3 women in costumes are gonna kill me, and I don't want to die. And
yeah,
but it's not. But there's not any, like, even like forced pathos about it. Like, he's mustache twirly at the same time.
yeah,
It's hilarious.
A close second of worst thing is the editing, which I'm sure we'll get into at a later time. But, like, anyways,
Yeah.
I hated it. I will be surprised if I see a worse movie this year. That's where I'm at. Anyways, Cap, you wanted to go third? Lay into it, buddy.
Also, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to keep interrupting you. You just kept bringing up stuff where I was like,
it's fine,
oh,
it's fine.
and then that reminds me of this thing, and that,
Yeah.
it's
Keep having
it's
that.
one of those. Connor, like, I had, again, I don't want to be hyperbolic. But like we said, it's hard not to be. I walked out, and even that, like, as I was watching it, you know, because I'm sitting here, like, really expecting this movie to redeem itself, right? Like, I'm watching this movie, and I'm thinking, like, it puts everything into perspective. I talk a lot about how it's easy to accidentally lower your standards when much of what you're seeing is terrible, and it makes me not, like, rethink my reviews or how I felt about other bad superhero movies lately, but it just puts things in perspective where it's like, you didn't know it could get this bad. Like, and in an era where people are kind of turning on the genre, where we're just starved for some quality from superhero movies. It's, by the way, hilarious to me that people involved with this movie, particularly the director-writer, keeps talking about, like, how different it is from other superhero movies. I'm like, well, it's paint by numbers on paper, and I guess it's like trying to be this sort of like darker thing, but she keeps talking about, like, how character driven it is, and I don't know what she's talking about, and like, oh, it'll really surprise you because it's not like all those other superhero movies. I'm like, right, because they don't make me want to gouge my eyes out, right? Like, it makes Aquaman 2 look like Aquaman 1. It makes Morbius look like Venom.
That whole movie just made me want to watch Venom. And I hate Venom. And Venom looks like a masterpiece compared to this.
Same, Jason. Same. Yeah.
It makes Rebel Moon look like Attack of the Clones. You know, like, it really puts things into perspective for you. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do my sign flip, and I have. And you guys did a wonderful job breaking down all the ins and outs with this of what's not working and what's not working. I have prepared. As I was trying to figure out how exactly to handle this, and I decided the best way was to prepare a poem. So I'm gonna do my sign flip via a poem. So it won't take as long as you guys, but here we go. This is my poem. Madam Web, Madam Web, clairvoyant orphan Madam Web. Can't spin webs, she can't climb, just deja vu all the time. Her mom's dead, so now she's Madam Web. Madam Web, socially awkward Madam Web. Her partner's name is Uncle Ben. That's whose movie this should have been. She's blind because the title is Madam Web. Just a couple more verses here. Madam Web, Madam Web. Why did Sony make Madam Web? S.J. Clarkson is a facade. It must have really been written by Avi Arad. How else would we have Madam Web? Madam Web, it's the cheap TV pilot for Madam Web. Appropriately, it's set in 2003. It looks like it was made for the WB. Look out! Here comes the impossibly attractive cast of Madam Web. And finally, Madam Web, best thing, worst thing for Madam Web. Best thing, I guess, is Uncle Ben. Worst thing, watching crap scenes over and over again. Sign flip, I'm not feeling Madam Web. Thank you.
That was wonderful.
Oh, thanks, man. I couldn't. So I started thinking really hard, and every time I see one of these with the Sony movies, I'm thinking, of course, about Avi Arad, who's still producing these, and I had this kind of epiphany with this one where I was like, okay, I think he's more involved than anybody knows in what things get selected, because Morbius struck me as some guys there from the old toy days in the 90s went, Morbius was really popular relatively in the animated Spider-Man show, let's give him a movie, and a lot of regular people, especially younger people, are going, who the hell is Morbius, and why are we making a movie about that? This really solidifies that theory, right? This is what you do if you're remembering those old days, and for you, like, Spider-Man is that 90s cartoon show. And it's not like, I'm sure the Madam Web toys sold any better than any other toys, but you're just thinking about, like, what you have in the box that you've not used yet and that you could, kind of try to force into a property. Because the way it watches all of these, and, like, that's why he goes to Venom, too. Venom just happens to also have the benefit of being a real popular character that people like already. It feels like a vanity project, and I'm like, but whose vanity project? Oh, it's Avi Arad's. He just doesn't happen to be a writer or a director. So he's finding whatever crazy sap or I shouldn't say crazy, but whatever sap like really needs work right now, and will make a thing for him. And then he hires them, and they're like, I don't know why we're making a Madam Web movie, but I guess so. Then every time you hear somebody that's worked on one of these movies, like a writer or director, talk about them, you can see them kind of grasping at straws for why it even exists, and trying to make it sound, like intelligent and smart and different from all the other superhero movies. There's a lot of protesting too much.
Yeah, I have to wonder how much longer they can get away with it. Because just I think like within the industry, it's like you look at who's leading these. This is Dakota Johnson. Morbius was Jared Leto. You have Tom Hardy doing the Venom movies, and they brought in Woody Harrelson. And a lot of these actors, they strike me as the kind who would probably turn down a role in a Marvel movie. I don't know like how true that is. They just kind of strike me as that they have like some credibility to them. Dakota Johnson put in her time doing the 50 Shades of Grey movies, but since then she's been doing a lot of, more artsy movies, more like independent stuff, and she's done a lot of performances that I quite like. Um, but then it's like I feel like in the case of all of these, they all change drastically over the course of like production and post production. That by the time they come out, they don't resemble at all the vision that the directors maybe had when they were pitching it, or when they were brought onto it, or when the actors were kind of talking about what they had like some control over what the character would be like. And so I just feel like after like this many times of it kind of being, it should like be known in the industry, like don't go to one of those Sony Spider-Man movies because they're just going to completely tell you one thing and turn around and turn it into something else. Like I don't know how much longer they can get away with this.
Well, and they feel like they're, yeah, really excellent points, Connor. They feel like they're just trolling us all. Like they
Yeah.
don't even care if they succeed or want them to succeed, and like I'm sure that's not really what's going on. But like they seem hyper unself-aware, and ultimately confused with Morbius. Where when the meme thing started happening, for instance, their immediate response was, "Oh, put it back in the theater. It's popular. People like it." And it's like, no, that's not why people are talking about it. It's quite the opposite. Like I said earlier, like maybe they're starting to sort of get the memo, considering there wasn't a lot of press for this, and they were really careful not to show it to the critics early, or very early, and all of that. So like even they've kind of turned on this now. So you're right. Like I don't know how much more of this kind of stuff that you'll end up seeing now. Now to your point that they end up not resembling what they started off as. To be fair, MCU has been having that problem a lot the last few years, also, particularly the last phase. But the difference is, they didn't start that way. Sony like new Spider-Man spin-off nonsense, starting with Venom, they started like that. And Marvel still up until very, very recently had the clout and like public opinion for many, many years on their side to still find enough actors that are like, oh yeah, that'll be solid for my career. Even if it's not a great movie, it'll do well at the box office and it'll get my name back on billboards, right? And with or the modern digital equivalent of billboards, and then because I'm talking like an old person, and then what you're having with this, and Jason, I'm alluding to a point you made to me earlier today, is I think they've been trying to find and like succeeding at finding actors that don't realize that like what they're in and what the landscape of superhero movies has been lately, and that Sony is not Marvel Studios.
So I've been hearing rumors that Sony has been telling actors, or did maybe like 2 years ago when some of these, Madam Web and Craven started getting made, they were telling actors that they were asking actors if they wanted to be in a Marvel movie. And that doesn't necessarily mean MCU. But I heard that there were a couple actors that like just never wanted to work with Sony again, at least on a Sony Spider-Man movie, just because of that, because they did not realize what they were getting themselves into.
And you can tell that people like the star of this movie, Dakota Johnson, don't pay attention again to the superhero landscape, and so I bet she didn't even know that this wasn't an MCU movie.
Have you seen her on the press tour?
I watched a couple of and like she's so like blank faced and checked out, and I mean she really looks like she wants to die. It's very, very sad.
Did you see that clip where they're like, what are the name of the 3 Tom Holland Spider-Man movies? And she's like, I don't know. Spider-Man Get Home Quick? Something like, she just like knocked 3 titles out that were so wrong. And she was asked like, are you going to go see Madam Web? She's like, probably not. She just doesn't care. And good for her.
No,
I think she got.
I was gonna say I think she got roped into something that she probably signed up for before she really understood what she was taking on.
Mm-hmm.
We got a $10 super chat from Dubby, and thanks to you. He says, I saw Connor in real life at my screening of Madam Web. It was hilarious when you got up and punted your uneaten bucket of popcorn down the hall of the theater and shouted, I hate squash! Connor.
Oh my god. There's a lot of layers to that one.
What's the squash thing about?
That's a reference to my favorite movie, Boyhood.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've still never seen that, but I know you talk about that a lot.
There's one of the stepdads in that just like gets angry. He's like, I hate squash. That if I were to have a violent outburst at a movie, I would probably say that. So that's accurate.
Dan Schneider just put in a $5 super chat. I have heard the same rumors as Jason, that actors were tricked into working with Sony. I think it's true. She did fire her agent after all. Yeah, and that happened, I think before the movie even released.
It was the same day that the trailer was released.
Oh, okay.
She left her. She left her talent agency, casting agency, and went to another one.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you predict this will affect her career? Like, do you think she'll come through it unscathed, or is it one of those things where people will be talking about just how bad this is that she'll have a hard time getting word?
I think she will be fine. I think she is an actress who does kind of care about, like, the artistic merits of the movies she's in. Because, like, she did do the 50 Shades movies, but I think she's like, okay, that's me biding my time. Now I can be in, like, Luca Guadagnino's Suspiria remake, and I'll be in, like, the Peanut Butter Falcon and some other stuff. And I think she's probably mostly upset at, like, all the other things she probably put on hold or, like, declined in an effort to be in this. And now she's, like, the face of what is sure to be just, like, one of the most laughed at movies of the year, if not the decade. Like, yeah, I think she'll be fine, though. But, yeah. If nothing, I mean, she's Don Johnson's daughter, so, like, I'm sure she'll have plenty of connections to, like, redeem herself. But I think she's just mad that she did it. So.
Yeah, and rightly so. And then, like, you sign a contract, and you have obligations, and what are you gonna do? You really can't blame her for it. Beyond, maybe like be a little bit more careful about what you're signing up for with things, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is weird because, like, I'm just curious.
Maybe look at the landscape first. Like, if you don't know anything about superhero movies and what's happening with them, it may not be smart to just go, well, that's still real popular and in vogue, right? Like, you might want to look at it.
Yeah, I'm curious to know, like, did Sony reach out to her people and try to get her in? Like, how did she get involved in it to begin with, I wonder? It is kind of just a random pick because I think she's a good actress, but she's just the wrong kind of actor to lead this sort of movie. Like, her... Like, I hate the character of Cassandra Webb, but, like, you can maybe make me buy her more if you had someone with just a different affect.
The affect is wrong.
Johnson.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Now, I can't totally tell even what sort of personality archetype they were even really going for.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's just her fault. I think that's on the page, and that character is all over the place. Like describe this character's personality, Connor. Or describe what you think it's supposed to be. Not like not in a cheeky way, but just what do you think it is?
She is someone who her heart is to help others, and she has a helper's heart, but she has this exterior of jaded cynicism, and she's like a reluctant hero, but a hero nonetheless, and she can't ignore it for too long, and she has to help people. But the way the movie presents it is she just comes off like a jerk. Like,
but yeah,
I don't know what motivated this woman to want to be an EMT. Like, it's her job to help others, so you would expect her to be more like a Clark Kent type. She knows she likes to help people, and that's what she does front and center. I don't know why she chose this profession, because it's so weird when you have her say, all right, girls, I'm just going to drop you off with your parents. I don't even know why I'm helping you. And then they all say, we can't go to our parents. Here's why. And then she goes, okay. And then 20 minutes later, once you've hit the next checkpoint after the next action scene, she goes, all right, I'm going to drop you guys off with your parents. I don't even know why I got involved to help you to begin with. It's like, what? Like, I thought we already moved past this point in her character. She just comes off like this flaky jerk. I don't like her at all.
Yeah, and she's real slow on the uptake too.
Yes.
So like that's
Yes.
a big kind of two strikes against her. She's also in a profession where she has to work very closely with other people, and she's so socially awkward and almost like afraid of other people that those two things don't seem real well reconciled. And I mean, like, I'm sure there's like reclusive people that do that job, but she's not developed well enough for me to understand how those two things go together. You know what I mean? Like, if she felt, herself and comfortable at work, but then she goes home and she's like, now I'm lonely and I feel funky and like maybe I would buy it, but there's not any correlation.
So
There's nothing to explain why she's the way she is beyond she's an orphan. By the way, I have no idea who her father was. Like, that's never discussed.
It's not.
But she's an orphan. Her mother died in childbirth, and she spent her life preoccupied by hatred for her mom, who she thinks didn't care about her because she went to the Amazon looking for a like super spider for some reason that she doesn't understand. That's a mystery. While she was several months pregnant, and that somehow, that somehow becomes, in her personality, she's just really weird around people.
And I don't get how. Like, I mean, I can in my head come up with 3 or 4 different reasons for why somebody would interpret, their mother's backstory that way, and why they are maybe a little bit more reserved and withdrawn. But I don't think the movie connects those pieces at all.
That's what I'm saying. It does not connect those dots. And it's also curious that the director who worked on the Jessica Jones TV show, in interviews, keeps comparing her to Jessica Jones. I'm like, I don't see it. Like, they're not at all the same. And why is she an EMT? Why doesn't she have that sort of profession where she can, work on her own and is totally isolated, and like she gets along just fine with her partner, Uncle Ben.
Yeah. How did you like the line?
Yeah, if you haven't
You've
seen
never
her,
been
her
shot
partner's
at
Uncle
in
Ben.
Queens?
Say again.
How did you like the line? You've never been shot at in Queens?
I missed that. Or I didn't put it together. No, you're right. That's amazing. There were lots of those kind of Smallville-esque, like tongue-in-cheek prequel things.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to talk about the scene where she goes back to her apartment, and it's just a remake of that scene in Batman Returns. Like, exactly, like, to the T, where there's a cat that comes through the window, she gets her thing of milk, she puts it in the bowl, and then she puts it on the table, and then the cat goes on the table, and the cat has some milk, and then she says something about strays. That it's just Batman Returns. Wait.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Jason, because so I guess for context, I saw a decent amount of this movie twice because I walked into the movie, and the movie was already in the middle of starting. I'm like, oh no! I thought, I walked in 10 minutes after showtime. I figured trailers would still be going on, and I guess I walked in the middle of the first shot, but before anyone had started talking, and so I found my seat really quick, and I was like, okay, I guess. I'm like, whoa! Like, why do people talk like this in this movie? So I stuck around the movie theater for a while just to wait for the next showing to start so I could just watch the beginning. So then I watched everything up till, the baby shower. When they said, okay, we're going to the baby shower now, I'm like, I am not enduring that scene again, and I got up and left. So there is that line, you're right, Jason, where she's petting the cat after she puts the milk for it, and she's like, us strays got to stick together.
Yeah.
And that's one of the only examples I can think of in the movie where it adds some kind of thematic connection where you could see the other girls that she's looking after as strays.
kind of like yeah, it's weird. Like that whole scene is like I needed more scenes like that.
And then also, there was a scene that just I don't even understand at all, and I'm hoping that you can make it so that I can understand it, but I'm not really sure.
Spoilers. That's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. So there's a part like in the middle where she and you can't even tell that this is a dream. It just randomly cuts. But she has a dream where she goes back to the diner after she ran over that ceiling guy with a taxi, right? She goes back to the diner, and then the ceiling guy comes back and talks to her and tells her everything for some reason. I don't even know how this is happening.
That old chestnut.
And then she doesn't use it at all throughout the movie. There was no reason for that. Like,
That scene.
we already know this. She didn't need to know that. She wasn't ever gonna use it. I don't understand why that scene even exists.
Also, I just had this thought now that you said that. If she can commune like that telepathically with the bad guy, why did she even have to go back to the Amazon to meet with the guy that was with the spider tribe? Because you'd think that at some point maybe their minds would link. Like I realize that she doesn't know how her powers work or anything, but why doesn't that guy just reach out and
yeah,
they could have saved more time filming it, whatever they were pretending like was the Amazon.
So that's okay. You guys are bringing up like all of these things about this movie that boggle my mind. I'll start with your scene, Jason, because that scene was like that is like the perfect encapsulation for like the bad editing of this movie. You have it a little bit earlier with like the scene with the pigeon, where it's like she jumps back in time during that scene, but she never like. But at the beginning of that scene, she's sitting on the couch. But when she travels back in time, she's no longer at the couch. She's like she didn't move from 2 minutes in the future. You know what I like? It's hard to explain.
Yes.
So it's like she's sitting watching A Christmas Carol because this movie was released in December. Oh wait, but at least the disc will be released in December. Oh wait, but she's watching this movie while she's eating cereal. Then she gets up
because somebody told her to go home and watch old movies.
That was such a weird line. I'm like, then I don't.
Why
get
not
it.
watch new movies?
Yeah.
Why
Why
just play video games? What?
And then she goes home. It's like if the person had said, "Why don't you go home and watch some public domain movies?"
Yeah, like I don't know. Like when someone's at work and they're like not feeling well, I'll just tell them to take rest and like kick their feet up and I'm not gonna say watch some old movies, dude.
I mean, was it because she knows her and knows that she likes to watch old movies? Like, I don't even remember who that character was now, but I didn't think it was somebody that knew her.
It was like a doctor or something. Yeah,
I
don't
it
know.
wasn't even somebody that she worked with.
Yeah, so
I don't even.
but like,
remember.
so she's like eating food.
They could have
and then
given
she,
that
like,
line to her boss, who dies in the most contrived way I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh!
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Connor. Go ahead, Connor.
So
need
then,
to
like,
talk about
she
that.
gets up and goes to the kitchen. A pigeon runs into the window, and then she crosses over to the window and opens it up. And she's like, "Huh, weird." And then she like jumps back in time. Now, what would happen is you're back on the couch eating food, and then you're like, "Wait a minute," but she's not. She's still at the window, and then like the TV is playing the scene again, and all of her stuff is back to where it was, but she's not. And like I don't understand how that works. But then later, like when she like doesn't get to the diner in time, or she dies at the diner or whatever, then she jumps back in time to be where she's back in the forest next to the car. And it's like, what are the rules? Like I don't understand. Like
There
far
aren't
back
any.
Aren't any.
oh yeah, how far back in time is she going? Like, and then like they try talking about like, oh, you will eventually be able to go in multiple locations at the same time, and it's like,
And does that ever happen?
no, like, but like, yeah, towards the end she astral projects, but it's like, Is that what the I don't know, man. Like it's breaking my brain.
Yeah, because
And
it's
then,
just clairvoyance. Like, and also they don't really discuss the whole web of life thing, which is what all that's supposed to be.
okay.
But like, I guess.
But then getting
Sorry, go ahead.
no, but then getting back to what Jason was saying with that diner scene, like that scene started, and I was like, I don't know what's happening because they just had a heart to heart, all the girls did, and then it's like she wakes up in the middle of the night and then leaves, like she like leaves like a thief in the night, like she's just gonna run away from them. I'm like, why? You just had the heart to heart. You just like you've reached the next emotional checkpoint. Like you now trust each other. Why are you leaving them? Like,
and it's terribly edited.
yeah, and then she like goes to the diner, and then it's like she has like this whole dialogue exchange with the bad guy, and then like she wakes back up in bed, and I'm like, okay, so I guess that was just like she's seeing the future, so she's now gonna get into the cab and then go there and then have like the real in her. Like, no, I guess that was a possible future. Is it like like you were talking about, Cap, where it's like her spirit's communing with his spirit somehow? Like, I don't understand.
That's what I thought
what
was
is going
happening
on.
originally, but then it seemed like there were reasons later to think that she was actually in the night. I don't know. I was really confused by all that.
It's so
But
bad.
But why does the scene even exist? Because like she never tells the
know.
girls about any of that, and she never like uses any of that knowledge to like. So why does
What's
it even
great is
happen?
that the villain keeps saying, "You can't beat me with your mind." And it's supposed to be a hero that, and I kind of like this. I mean, it's supposed to be a hero that never, throws punches or gets in action scenes or anything. She's like she would just, defeat the villain with her knowledge. But she doesn't do that. All she does is run people over with cars.
Yeah.
Like constantly.
She does use a Pepsi sign to fight the bad guy.
That too,
so
yeah. But
that
none
was-
of that is like, look how resourceful, or I guess resourceful in that, look, there's a Pepsi sign, but it's never like, ingenuity, smarts,
No.
like wits, and again, like the director keeps talking about how witty this character is and how smart she is, and I'm like, well, it would have been nice if you'd written that on paper, because that's not what happened. Okay, I have a question for you guys. And this all goes with what Connor's talking about. Connor, more broadly, that leads us to the kind of, because the easy answer to this, of course, is just like fate and destiny and crap, which also the movie doesn't even really discuss. But there's of course just a whole lot of coincidences and contrivances to get you from point A to B to C, and you have like superpower logic that, or like a lack of any kind of logic, where, like Connor said, I don't know what the rules are. So let me break this down for a second. The villain Ezekiel sees a future where 3 women wearing spider suits murder him or kill him in battle. And it looks like the Rita in the bedroom scene in Power Rangers 2017. And then...
This is from the same writers as Power Rangers 2017.
Oh my god! Is it because I had... Is it really?
Yes.
Oh, we
yes.
had 2017 like the whole movie.
We couldn't stop thinking about that movie. That explains everything. No, now I understand. I have no questions anymore. Like, I have all these logical questions. I don't want to ask them now that I know who wrote this. It makes perfect sense to me now. Anyway, he has these visions that they're gonna kill him, and our hero has not met the girls yet. So the question, and we make it very clear that this is supposed to be the kind of clairvoyance. Connor keeps talking about it like time travel, but of course she's not literally time traveling. It's that she's living in her future. Dagensphere kept asking about this. She's living in her future memories, thinking that it's actually happening now, but it's they're not future memories, but future experiences. What she's really doing is just jumping ahead in a timeline. I guess it's semantical. You can look at that as time travel very easily, but she's seeing a future that she discovers that she can change when the bird comes flying through the window, right? So so you have multiple timelines that she's paving over. Ergo, was there ever a version of history where she didn't meet these girls, because if so, they would have become spider people without her, and I don't understand how that works.
Yeah, I don't like when Ezekiel is having that vision of them. What is it? Because that doesn't happen. Like, so
Yeah, I don't get this. So I guess the idea is the timeline for, and this is why I brought up Fate and Destiny. I guess the original timeline always had her meeting these girls, and somehow they become friends and she helps them become superheroes, even though they all hate each other when they first meet. They only meet because he's trying to kill them in the first place. It's very easy and convenient that the three of them are in the same place at the same time. It's talked about how convenient that is and how it can't possibly be coincidence, and then that's never discussed again. So I can't write that off. I can't give them credit for that because they talked about how coincidental it was, because they talk about it like there's going to be an answer to it. You know, Connor, it reminds me of a scene in Power Rangers 2017 when the newly powered teenagers get hit by a train, and then the next day they wake up in their beds going, "How did we get here? This is very strange." And they never explained how it happened.
And but the difference between this,
I thought a scene was cut. Apparently not.
The difference between,
or the same, or there was a scene cut here too. I don't know.
The difference between this and 2017 though is that 2017 it takes like an hour and a half for them to actually become Power Rangers. In this, it never happens. Like,
yeah. So again, the only impetus, right? Like, the only inciting incident that puts these four characters, all four of them, because these girls don't know each other in the first place either, right?
No, they don't.
no.
So the only thing that puts all four of them together is that this man is trying to kill the three teenagers.
But why are they all there?
And that's what eventually leads them to being superheroes. But there is a future where they kill him. I don't understand. I don't understand what the first timeline looks like.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, it's like, I wonder what, like, if it's trying to be like a paradox thing where it's like, oh, his desire to try to kill them is what creates their powers in the first place. It was self-fulfilling prophecy, like classic science fiction kind of concept.
But usually,
that's not what this.
usually you can't have both kinds of time travel. It's possible,
You're
but
right.
you have to talk about it. You have to tell us how it works.
Exactly. It's like that's what it. See, that's like the obvious direction to go with this, and then they just don't do it. And then what they came up with, like, is incoherent. Like,
Yeah.
You're right. Like, I don't know how they come together.
And I also want
powers.
before we continue this conversation, I also want to reiterate that I'm also not invested enough to care.
That's true. No, that's
So,
that's
like,
the important part.
we're only talking about this to do our due diligence, because this is a job that I have for some reason chosen to continue doing. But, like, I wanted to leave 15 minutes in. Like, there wasn't any redeeming value in this movie for me. Like, I didn't really want to keep watching it. Like Jason made a really astute point at the beginning. Nobody feels real, and there's not one moment I believed in this entire movie. On any level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you want to make a fun, over-the-top, silly Saturday morning cartoon, you know, kind of thing. There's still an internal logic. There's still, like, a flavor there where I can be sucked in and invested on some I didn't have that.
Yeah.
It just felt like a bunch of like rushed random scenes forced together, written by somebody who's neither written anything or ever read anything or ever watched anything. Like, it was really bizarre.
It is. That's the important thing to talk about, is like just like the lack of investment. Just it does, like, you can't watch this movie and not think about the mechanism which brought it into existence. You're like, what? Why is this the way it is?
And why does it exist? Why are we looking at it?
Yeah. But going back to the girls with the powers, though, I have a question. So,
Yeah.
like, at the beginning, this is really funny. Ezekiel Sims, like, taking pictures
of Cassandra Webb's mom's diary, that never comes back into play. And in fact, we actually get that footage of him taking pictures of her journal while she discovers the spider. So this is the cinematic equivalent of placing the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable, because her discovering the spider gives him his powers. It's the reason Cassandra has powers. In like his vision in the future, he's saying, "Where is my spider? Where is my spider?" So it's, I guess, important. It's in the middle of his apartment, so I imagine it's like kind of central to whatever fortune he's built or plan he has that's been cut from the movie. And so it's like, you show us her finding the spider. You don't show us him taking pictures of her journal, which never becomes relevant. And then later, so he gets his powers from the spider. That's the impression I get. And then I get that impression because when Cassandra's mom is bitten by the spider, that's sort of what has given her powers. That's what gave her powers. So my question then becomes, why haven't her powers manifested earlier? Why did this near-death experience...
Not until she was in her 30s.
Yeah, like, I don't
This script feels like 4 different people wrote 4 different quarters of the script without reading any of the rest of it. That's what it feels like. Like, they never go back to anything.
And
they don't know what's gonna happen.
Right. She goes back to the guy on the Amazon who hilariously is standing around and goes, "I promised your mother I would be here when you came." He's just there in the middle of the forest. Okay. I took a super fast bathroom break, walked back in as that was happening, and lost my mind. Like, I had a hard time getting back to my seat. I was laughing so hard. he goes, "I promised your mother I would be here, so here I am." And I was dying laughing. But anyway, I bring that up, sorry, to say when that happens, he makes this big deal out of how a bunch of just obvious stupid movie tropes, or like superhero movie tropes, where it's like, you're the only person that can save us, and you're the most powerful with this power. Like you only got the clairvoyant part, but somehow she's like the most clairvoyant of all of them. Like, why? Like, how come the other people in like the spider tribe can't do what she's doing? Can't they just all come together and go stop the Ezekiel guy? Jason said something about thinking they were all dead for some reason, but I didn't get that, and I don't know why they would be.
Yeah, I don't think they're dead. Like, part of them have to be clairvoyant, because otherwise, how would that guy know that she would come back for answers?
Well, and and more than that, the Ezekiel is clairvoyant.
I guess.
Like, he also
he has
got that
vision. I mean, he has like the vision, but then the vision isn't what ends up killing him. He has a vision that he will get killed, and then he does die, but in a completely different way.
Yeah, and like, does he keep? I can't remember if he keeps flashing forward or not, but I thought it was going to culminate into some sort of like mind battle between them, because it also does the superhero movie trope of your villain has to just be the literal mirror of your hero in power set and everything. So they actually did sort of do evil male Madam Web as Madam Web's villain. It's amazing.
How did so is the spider totem? I've not read the JMS stuff with Spider-Man. So the spider people in the Amazon sort of have like these tribal Spider-Man costumes, where it's like the webbing of the Spider-Man costume is like vines on their bare skin, so they kind of look Spider-Man adjacent.
Yeah.
And that's why this guy, Ezekiel Sin, he's basically just wearing a Spider-Man costume.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think it's inspired by that tribe in the Amazon. Is that the spider totem stuff?
I've never read all of that, and it's been a while, but like the totem thing is just like the whole web of life thing, where there's these like spider characters that are all connected through like time and space and whatever. And like it's an idea that I never liked. Okay, are you coming back?
Yeah, I'm coming back.
Jason's gonna take a break. He can only stand to talk to us about this movie for so long. But what I thought was kind of preposterous. Well, the whole thing is preposterous. That's an obvious word. Connor, why have like Spider-Man iconography in this at all? Why have Ben and like baby Peter Parker? Like, it's so ironic and bizarre that you go, we're gonna completely avoid Spider-Man for the other Spider-Man shared universe movies we're making. And then when we finally make one where we'll include him, and I'm saying this retroactively, it will turn out to be a standalone movie that's not even in that universe. Because apparently they've decided that this is by itself, and they've been talking about it in the press tour as if it was always that way, and we know it's not.
But it's always what way? Like a standalone movie?
Yeah, they're talking about it like, and the director keeps patting herself on the back about it, where it's like, no, our movie is great because it's not like you don't have to worry about the continuity of all these other things. Like, it's better because it stands all by itself. I'm like, okay, so we know that's not true, and first of all, it's ridiculous to say that because you're still like leaning too much on continuity stuff in the first place. Like, whatever continuity you're in, the only reason that you have Peter and Ben and all of that is so that this will feel like a Spider-Man thing at all. But again, why, when like Morbius has no connection to any of that besides one line about Venom and a insane Michael Keaton post-credit scene, and then
it's ludicrous.
And then the Venom movies, Venom's costume is not inspired by Spider-Man at all, and Spider-Man does not seem to even exist in that universe. Except that universe is somehow connected to the MCU and other Spider-Man universes just by virtue of Venom in comics being a Spider-Man spinoff. Because of the multiverse stuff. I don't know. If you can't follow me, it's because I can't follow this stuff myself.
But there's sorry, S.J. Clarkson, I think you got duped because this takes place in 2003 and Venom takes place in 2018. If you don't think they're going to try to find a way to, make them all fit together in continuity, I think they got you.
Well, this movie is going to do so poorly that I think there's a good chance that they just completely ignore it and forget about it moving forward, and that maybe all they do after this is Venom stuff or try to finally do their own separate Spider-Man or like an alternate Spider something. I have no idea what's going to happen with the future of this. But I originally, and I cannot explain this to you. I read this today. I don't know how true this is, but what I read is that apparently this was originally supposed to be set in the 90s. And they shot it as set in the 90s, and then part of the reshoots was getting rid of all the references to 90s stuff, which I'm pretty sure is why there's a Blockbuster video, because it's 03. We're like a year or two before Blockbuster completely shuts down.
Wow. Okay.
And what I read, and this was on Wiki. I don't know what the source was, so I don't know how to like I have no source on this. I don't know how true this is. But it is very clear to me that it was supposed to be 90s and then got changed to the 2000s. Apparently the Spider-Man it was supposed to be connected to was Garfield's. And it wasn't going to be part of the other Venom movies and stuff. And then the studio said, no, it needs to look like it goes with Tom Holland's I have been saying, by the way, for years that Sony really wants Tom Holland's Spider-Man to somehow or rather fit in their universe, and that they've been coy and weird about what this is the whole time. And then like No Way Home kind of confuses the whole issue where now they're like, oh, it's in a different universe. But remember the really early interviews with people working on Venom, where there was all that talk about like, is it in the MCU or not? And they were like very coy and kind of weird and up in the air about it. It's because they always wanted it to be part of the MCU.
Wow.
Or they wanted Tom Holland to, they wanted the option to, like, move him back and forth somehow, or something. Like they don't know, we don't know, like, it's nuts. So apparently it was changed to 03 so that it could sort of fit as being Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
I don't even know what to say.
Because the only reason you set this period at all is so that Peter Parker can be Spider-Man now in present day. So
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, if the director is acting like it's super cool that they have a standalone movie, okay, then don't have Spider-Man in it at all. Or if you're gonna do baby Peter Parker, just say that he's gonna be Spider-Man in 20 years. What do you care? Why is it set in 2003?
Yeah. Wow.
There's no reason for this to be a period piece except the studio mandated it so that it would fit in continuity stuff, and now they're putting their tail between their legs and saying, no, it was always its own thing.
Jeez.
It's ludicrous.
I'm curious to know about this somebody. I'm probably I had wrong intel, but I remember seeing some kind of set photo where it was Aaron Taylor Johnson who's playing Kraven, like on the set of Madam Web, wearing like a Spider-Man costume, and I think that was just a picture of the bad guy in this movie. I think the actor is like named Tahar Rahim or something.
Yeah, I think that's his
and it looked a lot like the ending where he's like on the the Pepsi Cola sign, and he has like his mask off and he has like kind of longer hair like Aaron Taylor Johnson does. But I wonder if at one point Kraven the Hunter was supposed to be the villain of this movie or something. I don't know. But that could just be a complete fabrication based on a misinterpretation of a set photo. But this whole thing's just a mess. Why are they doing this?
And we use that word a lot, but like we need a more extreme word, right? Like, it's not just a mess. Like
yeah, this is a hurricane. Like I like, how do you clean this up? Like I don't know how.
It's a tsunami.
Yeah.
It's twisters. It's the
Twisters.
It's all of them. It's all the twisters. Finally saw the trailer for that before this movie. I was like, I saw the original Twister in the mid-90s, and you're telling me 30 years later they're using the exact same technology to track tornadoes that they were using back in 1995 or whatever? Okay.
Yeah.
They've still got what, just for nostalgia reasons, just so I'll go see it? It's like, oh boy, they got aluminum cans going up into the tornado. I gotta see this!
Oh.
And it's got the guy from Hamilton in it.
It does have that guy from Hamilton.
Which
in
guy?
John Lawrence.
Oh, okay.
What's his face? The Hispanic guy.
But yeah.
I'm talking about Anthony Ramos?
Yeah.
Oh, I love him. He's great.
Yeah.
Well, he's in Twisters. Strap
Well,
in.
and so is Glenn Powell. I love that guy too.
Get ready.
So,
Look forward to it. We're going to review Twisters.
I guess I got to see Twister at some point, so I should probably watch that soon.
so Madam Web.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are talking about Madam Web.
Thanks for getting us back on track, Jason.
So, like, halfway through watching this movie, I came to a conclusion. Cassandra Webb is just the book character Paddington. So,
What?
so this is just Paddington, but with spiders. At the beginning, there's this person who goes to Peru
Oh
to
my
research
God.
spiders, and then a spider, who is the main character pretty much, is a spider, and she is trying to go back to Peru. It's Paddington.
Oh my!
That's amazing.
Great,
Yeah.
great job, Jason. Good job.
Wow.
I'm surprised I didn't think of that. That was really good.
But yeah, so it never occurs. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No.
It never occurs to them that you're and this is like typical prequelitis stuff, of course, but this is one of the most extreme examples I've seen where you're going to completely deflate like Peter Parker's inventiveness by having all the spider stuff happen before he can come up with it. And like and by having Madam Web like her mother is bit by a spider and then she gets powers, and then eventually there will be Spider-Man, and also who will get, I assume, bit by an unrelated spider, unless it's a similar spider to like in genome or whatever to the one that bit her. So like, you know, he would get everything but the clairvoyance, I suppose. And then it ends up having the really convoluted like science background with his family, like we have with the Amazing movies, which might somewhat explain why they were thinking about connecting it to those movies, if they were going to have like his mother, or sorry, her mother, who is related to the Parkers, right? Going to research the spiders because Ben Parker is, or not Ben Parker, but Richard Parker is doing all that stuff. And like, is Richard Parker gone from this whole movie because he's busy doing some kind of like science research stuff like he does in the Amazing movies? Like,
that's a good question. Well, it's just like so weird and convoluted because like when this Spider-Man grows up, depending on who it is, does he design his costume based off of the tribe in the Amazon, or did he just inspiration strike, you know, and it just happens to look like it? Either way, it's kind of hilarious that you could just interpret the Spider-Man as culturally appropriating his costume.
That's true too.
It's like, why are we doing this?
But also, you have not one spider character with a Spider-Man looking costume before Peter Parker, but 5, and one of them is the bad guy.
Yeah.
And there's so much like what are the odds of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet still somehow the most contrived and unbelievable thing in the entire movie is the way her boss gets killed.
It's hilarious. It's so funny.
She stands there and she's like, "Oh man, I've seen the future," and you get in the, and to be fair, she may not know exactly when it happens, but like here in a little bit, you're gonna get hit, you're gonna get sideswiped by a giant truck. So I better drive your ambulance. And he's like, "No, you're not gonna drive. I'm gonna drive." And then he gets in. And she's like, "Okay, I guess I just have to stand here and watch this happen." Like, I would think she would try a little harder.
Oh, it's so funny because then she like turns away, and it's like the framing is like a comedy framing where she's on like the far left side of the frame or far right side of the frame, and then out of focus you see the the ambulance driving away, and then it gets T-boned and she's walking away in slow motion.
That is the greatest shot in all of superhero history.
It's pretty good.
It's awesome.
And you remember I said earlier she's slow in the uptake? Like, she has already started seeing visions, and then at some point after she's had a couple, she has another one, and she's like, "Oh man, this is just like deja vu." She acts like it hasn't happened to her yet, which made me wonder if like scenes were out of order.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dagan Spear says he keeps assuming the seeing the future thing is basically spider sense. Maybe if that's a good point. Like it could be a really extreme version of spider sense, where when Peter gets his powers, he gets like a really tiny, slight sense of clairvoyance, because I guess the spider sense does work a little bit like seeing the future, where you just have. It's sort of like the difference between a telepath and an empath, right? Where it's like, you can tell danger is coming, but you can't tell exactly what's going to happen to you.
Yeah, and at some point, like, there's a line of dialogue somewhere in here that they talk about the spiders, and they say it's like they have like a sixth sense. And so I think that is trying to, like, imply spidey sense.
Yeah.
Like an extreme version of it. Yeah.
Because they're trying to come up with some way to connect the like classic Spider-Man powers to Madam Web and give her a Spider-Man type backstory. Like I said earlier, it's so TV the way that's handled, all the way down to she has to be called Cassie now.
Yeah.
And it can't be about an elderly woman that's blind and has clairvoyance. It has to be, a hot young chick that is just like a regular superhero by the end, kind of.
Well, hey, she's
At
got
least
a
she
red
doesn't.
trench coat, okay?
Say again?
She's got a red trench coat, okay?
Yeah, that's true.
She's styling, yeah.
At least she doesn't actually do like martial arts and stuff. But then to make up for that, they've got to have 3 superheroes that do, but then only in scenes that don't happen in the movie.
Well, I mean, one of them knows Taekwondo.
Yeah, or says she does.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
one
know
of
what's-
them, and she never uses it.
I don't know what's
It's
happening
awesome.
in half of this movie.
It's also like Power Rangers 2017 if I hated all of the teenagers.
Yeah.
Because that's
The
the
part
one
of the
thing that
movie
movie
that-
had going for it is people liked the characters.
That's right. The point of the movie that I wanted to leave at was
Those are,
the
by the way,
introduction.
sorry, if anybody doesn't
No.
know, those 3 Spider Women are Spider Women. Like they're all from the comics. They just don't seem anything like that. Like that's supposed to be Jessica, not Jessica Drew.
Cornwall?
Well, it's Cornwall in the movie. They've changed her last name for some reason. It also starts with a C, but I can't think of it right now.
Yeah, her introduction was like the part of the movie where I'm like, I just want to leave, because like she has like just a jerk's dad, where it's like
Carpenter, Julia
The-
Carpenter.
Carpenter. Okay, yeah, where it's like her stepmom was the patient that Cassandra was driving in the ambulance to the hospital, and they were able to get there in time.
She's met
And
them
then
all
they're like,
before
oh.
because it's faded.
Yes,
I guess.
it's a dark fate. Yeah, I want to see Spider-Man Dark Fate with Madam Web.
I mean, I guess that answers my question from earlier. It's just, dumb and not satisfying. The question of how would they have gotten together in the first place and gotten the suits? I guess that was always going to happen. So the other timeline doesn't really matter because somehow they would have always gotten together and done that. I guess is the idea, right?
Sure, but like it does play like, yeah. I mean, I guess. I don't know, just like the way this movie presents time, like it doesn't feel like paved over timelines. You know what I mean? Like it does feel like how does Beast explain it in Days of Future Past, where it's like the general shape of time is sort of like a river, like it's going to go in one direction. You can like throw a rock into it, and that'll change the tide a little bit, change the course a little bit. But what is going to happen is more or less going to happen. So it does kind of feel, I don't know, like it's...
Like, I get the distinct
not clear.
impression that in the future, I mean, who knows, because they're so ambiguous about everything, but in the future that Ezekiel sees, it's just those 3 women coming for him. And, like, Madam Web wouldn't be a part of that. But, like, she wouldn't be there, so he would know if she was. So, like, my assumption the whole movie was that they did that of their own accord first time around, and now Madam Web is part of it, but wouldn't have been. But that just doesn't make any sense, because how did they get the suits and become spider people?
Yeah, I don't know.
And why that theme? Why spiders? But I guess it's spiders because web of life, and they're all fated to be together, and they all have to be spiders. Like,
I mean,
why
guess.
are we trying this hard?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's weird, because it's like, I would like answers to these, but I still feel like if I got answers to this, I still wouldn't like the movie at all. So...
No, you would still, at the very least, you would still have a bunch of characters spouting really stilted and like baffling dialogue, and again, kind of cynical. A lot of kind of like cynical characters that are just sort of mean-spirited for no good reason. They try to make the teenagers less insufferable by explaining like why they're so unhappy and that they're kind of outcasts and misfits. But I still didn't like any of them, and they all were very one note, and it didn't make me sympathize more with them when I find out that And it all, again, kind of like Power Rangers 2017, you felt like kind of D20 roles for their backgrounds and personalities, where it's like, we need them to all be, like, loners and outcasts and all by themselves, like Cassandra, so one of them will have parents that were deported, and one of them will have rich parents that just don't care about her, and none of that was explored enough for me to care. So it just seemed like excuses where it was like the movie saying, like these characters, we've made them insufferable in the first place on purpose because that's just what you do. You're not the characters aren't supposed to like each other at all, so that you'll get all teary-eyed when they finally come together as a family.
Right.
You know, they like that. That's how they treat
CPR
it
together. Yeah.
The CPR payoff is the best.
It's so funny.
Oh, it's a good thing she taught them CPR.
Okay, so Connor, did you
Yes.
catch the thing at the beginning, like toward the beginning of the movie? Not like it was like maybe like 30 minutes in the movie, but Cassandra is in like a one of her visions, right?
Mhm.
And she's like traveling through space, and like a bunch of things are like going past her, and like
I
one
forgot
of
about
the
that.
things is the big S that is from the Pepsi thing, and
Yeah.
then that happens at the end, and that makes it so much better.
That was awesome. So
Because-
I got to see that scene twice because that was one of the scenes I saw when I was stuck around. All the info we get in that is wonderful because
Well,
it's like
I thought it was like,
Yeah.
oh, S for Spider-Man. Oh. And
Jason
then
had a
it's like-
theory that it was
Pepsi.
SP for
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, SP. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Oh, you didn't think about the P? But yeah,
I
it's
didn't think about
SP
the P.
for Spider-Man.
And then the last letter in Pepsi is an I, so SPI, Spider-Man. Yeah, no, it's funny in that vision. You actually hear the guy say, "You will learn to be in more than one place at the same time," and she like astral projects for a second, and I'm like, oh, so I guess it was foreshadowed.
Yeah. I guess you're right about that.
But I mean, it's like foreshadowing. It's like idiot foreshadowing. It's like, okay, we just threw it at the beginning. You don't know what you're looking at. The character doesn't know what's happening. It doesn't stick in your brain. And then it's like, oh, but they seeded it, so it's a payoff now. It's like, no,
Yeah,
that's
is that
lazy.
good foreshadowing?
No, it's not. Everything's lip service. Everything's an excuse, all the way down to, like character arcs and opportunities for change. So, we get to the end, and I couldn't believe this line. And even after living with this movie for an hour and a half, I could not believe somebody wrote this in a script. So the girls, I'll set this up first. So the girls, shockingly, nobody saw this coming. After Cassandra says, "Stay right here in the woods for 3 hours. Don't move. Don't go anywhere." They're all like, "Hey, there's a diner up the street. We're all hungry, and she won't bring us sandwiches. So we're gonna all go to this diner." So after they did that, and they almost got killed by the bad guy again, at the end, the big resolution to that character arc, the big thing they've learned, where they've grown up, they're becoming more responsible. We should talk about the inverse of power responsibility, by the way, because that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
The big line that cements it. I can't remember which of the three has it. One of them says, "Don't worry, we won't be impulsive."
Wait, one of them actually says that?
One of them comes right out and says, "Don't worry, we won't be impulsive."
Oh no.
That's what they had to learn, and that's what Madam see, and that's the big parallel between all of them. That's the whole power responsibility thing. Is that Cassandra has to learn to have a plan, because she started off as like a CW character, the complete opposite of what she would become later. So she's all like, again, impulsive and just like goes with the flow and does whatever comes to her. But now that she has vision and she can see the future, now she has to have a plan. See, and she's
Do you like how
learned that while teaching these girls that. So like she's seeing the negative side of herself in these girls.
That's very basic and like.
And they also do like a hilarious way of setting that up where she's talking to Ben in like the break room and he's like, "You got anything going on this weekend? You got any plans?" And she's like, "Nope."
Yeah. See, she has no plans.
And also, I was thinking of Austin.
She needs to go home and watch old movies.
I was thinking of Austin during that scene because you
Don't
can
we
hear
all?
the song "Breakfast at Tiffany's" by
Yes.
Big Blue Something playing in the background.
This was the other reason that I was thinking about Power Rangers 2017. You blew my mind when you told me it's the same writers. Is it really, or are you pulling my leg on that?
No, it is. They wrote Gods of Egypt. They wrote
Gods of
Dracula
Egypt.
Untold. They wrote Morbius. They wrote Power Rangers 2017. They wrote this. I've seen all of their movies.
Okay, so you get to the end, and you get the because of course we gotta hold the audience's hand. We do this even in like halfway decent movies now, and it drives me crazy. We've gotta remind the audience of the big important thing that was said to the protagonist earlier in the movie, right? So you have the mentor guy in the Amazon who goes, who goes, when you accept the responsibility, you will be granted great power. And so it's exactly so like they're being cute and they're flipping power responsibility. It isn't with great power comes great responsibility. It's that if you accept the responsibility, if you take responsibility, then power will be bestowed on you because you deserve it. Do you remember, Connor, the reason the Rangers weren't able to morph through 2/3 of the Power Rangers movie?
Because they wouldn't work together as a team.
Right. They had to accept the responsibility.
Okay. And then they got the power.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, it's not exactly that. It's that they had to learn to be selfless and put themselves on the line for the other members. But it's essentially the same thing. It's like you get that, and I like that idea with Power Rangers. You get that power because you've proven that you're worthy of it, and so that's how we flipped the power and responsibility with Spider-Man. I just can't believe that like he came right out and said it like that in a movie that has Uncle Ben in it.
Yeah. Oh, did you like the part where they're like, Ben's finally an uncle? All the fun, none of the responsibility. Ah!
That.
Jeez.
Dad, I think you looked at me and I was just staring at the screen like this.
Could you believe that they were? And I just thought this was odd and like weird and kind of wrong. Could you believe that they were weird enough to have been there at the birth of Peter Parker, but not his father? Like, if you... And remember, it's not his sister, it's his sister-in-law. Like, it's easy for me in a movie like this that's kind of cynical and it doesn't feel like it's touching anything human. It would be really easy for me to think, you know what? I think secretly Ben is actually the father. Like, I think maybe Mary had an affair with Ben Parker, and that's the real reason he's there. When I said he was the best thing, I really just mean I thought his performance was the closest thing to like a genuine real performance in the movie.
Yeah, and I think he did a good job.
Like if he was playing young Uncle Ben on the CW Spider-Man prequel reimagining series in 2003, that's an okay Uncle Ben.
Yeah, and I think he was doing a good job. I think he did a good job, like doing the like 90s 2000s type show.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
So what is...
Adam Scott's a good actor. I like him.
I cannot remember what it is, but there was a really funny part toward the end of the movie where, you know that stupid thing where they have to hold your hand and, like, it replays a line?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what it is, but this movie does it.
Well, I just mentioned one. Was there a different one?
Was there a different one?
It was just the if you accept responsibility thing. That's one of them.
Did they do that line again?
Yeah.
When is it? Because it's so stupid.
I think
it's
he
towards the
says
end
it
where
to
she's
her in
like-
the Amazon, unless he
he says
doesn't, and they cut the scene, and you're supposed to
He says it toward.
think that you remember
He says it during
happening?
he says it during the Amazon,
Right.
and then she's like in the middle of the fight,
Yeah.
and then she like.
Yeah, that's what I was
then-
talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, there's a couple of things when it comes to the Uncle Ben side of things that I just wanted to quickly touch on because one is just a silly moment. It's like he's been looking after these girls at like his sister-in-law's house for like a week, and it cuts back to him while Dakota Johnson's in the Amazon, and he's like looking out the window, and he's like, "All right, it's quiet out there." And I'm just like thinking, like, okay, it's been a week. Like, are you like checking out the window every 3 minutes after a week? I don't know. It's just kind of funny. But then the other thing is, why is Mary Parker even in this movie? Like, it's such a bizarre choice where
Because
like,
we
it
have
does,
to see Peter Parker get born.
we don't even see that happen though, do we? Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a
he's
baby
at the
Peter Parker at
hospital
the end of the
when he's
movie.
born. Okay, but like, it's just like a weird
And
thing.
then-
where it's like I could.
And
It
then
feels like
Madam Web has seen the future, and she's like, and I can't remember what exactly she says, but somebody says something about Peter and like, you know, how important he'll be or something, and she's like, "Oh, you have no idea."
Yeah, it's really dumb.
okay, but it's like I feel like the first draft of this movie was more prequely with this Peter Parker Spider-Man stuff. And then as they reshot it and like, you know, paved over the original timeline, they kind of tried to distance themselves from that. But then it's like, well, we can't really cut the action scenes because we're an action movie. And the action scenes involve Mary Parker's house. Mary Parker's in a car for one of them. So
Yep.
it's like we can't cut them out entirely. So it's like Emma Roberts is like an actress like that you've heard of and probably seen and stuff, playing this thankless background role of Mary Parker, who's just some pregnant lady in this.
Yep.
It's just a weird thing. It feels like an artifact from an older version of the movie.
I don't know. I felt like that stuff was really tacked on to the movie. Like I can see that being the reason.
It's clear again that at some point it was a big deal that this was like in a continuity.
Mm-hmm.
And like Connor said, they're trying to distance themselves from it now. But like it could still, Jason, I think, watch tacked on just because it doesn't belong. It doesn't belong there in the first place. The only way to, and like I'm not saying this is a good idea. It's all real. I don't know what word I want to use. Gratuitous, sensational, whatever. And like desperate, but.
Desperate's a good word.
Desperate's the right word, but I feel like the only way to make it work at least a little better than it does here is if you actually get into the mythology of the web of life and the spider totems and all of that. And so we're seeing the birth of Peter Parker because he'll ultimately sometime in the future be the culmination of the spider mythology, or he'll be like the next like generation of that. And so we're looping Madam Web into we're looping him into her origin because ultimately their fates are super intertwined. And so that's why she's connected to his family at the beginning. And it was it was always fate. She was always going to have to be connected to like Peter Parker and his family because of all the spider connections. They don't talk about any of that, so you'd have no idea why you're looking at Peter Parker except just the cuteness factor of it's a Spider-Man thing. So like I think that's sort of why that is there.
No, that's a good call.
It's so stupid.
It's really like it is one of those things we have to start thinking about, like this character and like webs and spiders, and they're all kind of. You have to take a step back and be like, "This is so lame. Like, why are we doing this?"
Yeah, and I I never liked getting. I don't know, like if it could be stupid on more of like a JMS level where like the writing is really good and the stories are cool, but you just started with a premise I don't like there's nowhere anything like close to that league, you know?
Right.
I've been scared of the day where we'll put Moreland in a movie, and now we sort of half did it.
Yeah, and it's not even and this is a weird movie because it's not even like hilariously bad like Jurassic House.
No, you said it was. You said people should go see it.
But I think it's hilariously bad in a different way where it's like this is just like the worst thing ever. And because of that, it's really
like you have to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
We've been prattling on about it for almost 2 hours somehow, and if you've not seen it, you just can't know.
Oh yeah.
Like if nothing else, it's worse than Morbius because it's like 11 minutes longer. So,
but
it doesn't feel like it though. I don't think.
But it is. You haven't seen Morbius,
or well, I don't. It doesn't feel like it's. This movie is that long though.
It is somehow worse than Morbius, and I've been racking my brain trying to think of worse superhero movies than this, and like there aren't very many.
Yeah, I think I have this right now ranked third. I have it behind Catwoman's the worst. I've never seen Elektra, but I'd say Hellboy 2019 is my number 2, and then this, and then just beating out Supergirl 1984. That would be my fourth one.
This did remind me of Catwoman in places, but I got to tell you, this is a worse movie than that.
Oh wow! Okay.
I think that movie is more coherent.
Oh, fascinating. Okay, because I think they are similarly incoherent. Yeah.
This movie makes
don't get
me
me wrong. It's way up there. It's in the top five or 10. But I think, I think this is still a worse movie. I think that has better production values than this.
This makes me want to watch. This makes me want to watch BVS. Like.
Yeah, BVS is way better than.
Oh sure,
yeah,
absolutely.
BVS is like really good.
Howard the Duck is a better movie than this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to start going. Like I said earlier, I have to start going to direct-to-video stuff. Like Son of the Mask, still worse than this.
Oh, no, Son of the Mask was theatrical.
Oh, okay.
What?
I found one. Son of the Mask is still worse than this movie. I found one.
You did it. Yeah.
Let me read these couple super chats before we wrap up. Robert Wild, $2. I blame Sony more than the filmmakers. I do too, but surely somehow you could turn in a script with better dialogue, if nothing else.
Yeah, like someone approved the script.
Someone wrote these things down.
the script.
And we gotta get El Muerto's back on the slate, baby.
Apparently it
Let's
is.
go.
Austin and I are gonna finally review those 2 issues of comics. Robert Wild, $2. Twisters, this time it's personal. I don't know if anybody from the original movie is coming back for that.
I don't know.
I haven't looked into it at all, but I didn't recognize anybody in the trailer.
There weren't that many like older people.
I'm shocked that Twisters wasn't a direct-to-video movie made 5 years after that original. That's really surprising to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I would have expected Twisters to have like a straight-to-video legacy, like Tremors or something. They kind of are seen, I think, in similar lights of 90s genre classics.
Robert says, I'm not saying these writers are good, just that they're known for super micromanaged movies with heavy studio interference. Yeah, that's true, but I still gotta hold their feet to the fire for some of the at the very least, like, lines of dialogue that they put in a movie that a studio head probably did not write or make them change.
Ben will love being an uncle.
And the line right at the end. The best thing about the future is that it hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
I mean, I can kind of see what you're getting at, where it's like, I still get to like if it's a positive future, if it's something that you're excited about, like you've seen it now, you get to experience it again. Like if that's what like. I guess there's a cool sentiment there, but there's no sense of wonder through the movie about like what might be cool about having those powers. It's played like a curse, like a horror film for 95% of it. So you finally get there, and she's like, "Oh boy, I sure love having these powers while I'm blind and in a wheelchair." Like, where's the tragedy of this character?
I liked it when Sydney Sweeney asked, "How is your eyesight?" She's like, "Better than ever."
Oh my god.
She'd probably say like, "No, I'm still blind. Thanks. Nothing's changed."
But I guess there's a glass half empty way of looking at that line too, where it's like the best thing about the future is I don't have to deal with it right now. You know? I decided not to, even though nobody's gonna care, I decided not to spoil the last line of the movie in my community post today. But originally, that was the end of my community post, where I wrote, "I don't want to give anything away yet, but the best thing about the future is it hasn't happened yet." Meaning, I don't have to review this for another 3 hours. Robert, I 100% believe that with great power comes great responsibility. Homages were Sony's idea. That absolutely sounds like something Sony would make them put in. Yeah, no, absolutely. But I'm talking about a lot of just the, like, smaller, like, regular lines of dialogue. You gotta love this. We didn't talk... This will be the last thing I mentioned. We're at 2 hours. I don't understand that. Connor, I almost said for worst thing, and I mostly just didn't because I couldn't make it rhyme in my poem. I almost said the worst thing was the baby shower scene. That entire sequence.
It's like nails on a chalkboard. It's so bad.
So, she breaks down her whole tragic origin. She's like, my mother died when she was like, 9 months pregnant with me, or however long. And
she died in childbirth.
She died in childbirth. Here's all this horrible stuff, and then not one of those women says, "Oh no, I'm so sorry," or like, because they're already really awkward around her, and it should have been, like, why are they all thrown under the bus like this, Connor? Like they at least one of them should have been like, "Oh my god, it suddenly makes sense how standoffish and antisocial and difficult to talk to you are." But no, all of them are just like, "Okay, well, that was weird. I guess I better move on now."
See, yeah, I don't know. I feel like
Robert, Sony didn't make them put that in, okay? Like, that's awful.
Yeah, I hate that scene so much. It's like they're playing a game where it's like they open up little things about what's your favorite thing about your mom. Why did she even put in like just don't participate? Like, then like who put in a blank one? That was me. I have no memories of my mom because she died in childbirth. I'm saying this to a 9-month-old woman or a 9-month pregnant woman. Like, why? Why are you like this?
So, I was inaccurate to some degree when I made my obligatory, like, knocks at the CW and the WB. Because what this actually really... It's still very TV. It's still TV pilot. And in production value and everything. In acting, like, it's very, very, like, crap TV pilot. But it actually watches more like the pilot for a freeform show, like 6-7 years ago. Go back and, I mean, don't actually do this, but if you went back and looked at Runaways or at Cloak and Dagger, which is a little better than Runaways, this has that feel.
Yeah, no, it does. It really does. That's a good call.
Polanski 5 999 super chat. That is not a name I recognize. Welcome if this is your first time putting in a super chat or watching us at all. One of 3 Spider Women, Isabella Mercer, is starring in the upcoming Alien movie this year. Oh, interesting. As well as James Gunn's Superman. This will be a footnote for her. LOL. Fun podcast, guys. Yeah, I hope this doesn't affect too many people's careers.
I think she'll be fine. She's been in acting since she's actually the girl from Transformers: The Last Night. She was Dora in like the Dora live action movie they made several years back.
Yeah,
she's been around for a little while. She'll be fine.
Oh, and we had to get the obligatory J. Jonah Jameson line. Did you catch that?
Oh yeah,
because in the comics, that character actually is Jameson's niece, and so like, boy, it's a small world, folks.
Well, they're connected by the web of life. It's all connected.
It's all connected.
For some reason.
Except somehow we never said that. Like, as goofball as this movie is, it was too good for Web of Life? It was too good for that? It was too good to, like, let her have her name at the end? Like, I didn't want the scene where she was named. I'm glad we didn't get that. You know what I actually thought we were going to get, Connor? And this wouldn't make the movie better or anything, but it would have at least halfway justified the Peter Parker birth and Ben Parker being in the movie and all
He's
of that.
leaping around in there.
He's leaping around in there!
Oh, I forgot about that one. That hit hard. Wow. Whoa.
I'm glad you remembered that. That was... No, I had a visceral reaction to that line. Oh, he's leaping around in there.
I had a few exasperated Jesus Christ while I was watching this.
Connor, you what I thought was going to happen was you'd get to the end of the movie, and it would be sort of like First Avenger or something, where the whole thing is a period piece, and then right in the last scene we jump to present day. Mm-hmm. And I thought we would get especially when they actually did the full-on Madam Web in the wheelchair and all of that, I thought maybe we would jump 20 years later, and 21 years later, it's right now, and we have a, like, non-cast, non-speaking actor standing in a Spider-Man costume, and she's giving him some kind of soliloquy. That's what I thought would happen.
Okay.
And honestly, they should have done that.
I guess so. Yeah, like I have no experience with Madam Web. This was my first exposure to the character.
Well, that's
and so when I got to the ending, and it's sort of like they throw her into a wheelchair and like put something over her eyes, I was like, oh, is this like what the character's supposed to be like? I don't feel like this was this inevitable destination. It didn't feel like this natural conclusion for this character. It did just sort of feel like a random, like turn for this character to like be in a wheelchair and be blind, I guess.
No, it's kind of like the way Xavier loses his hair in Apocalypse.
It's a lot like that, actually. Yeah, good call. Yeah. By the way, X-Men Apocalypse. There's room for that on the worst superhero movies ever list.
Yeah, and then that gets us into this whole other category of movies that are technically not as bad as this, but piss me off more.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that movie is objectively not as bad as this, but I'm more angry at it.
It's really bad.
It's really bad.
It's really bad.
All right, well, guys, do you two have anything else you have to say about whatever the hell this was before we finish up here, before we close up shop?
We got a good 2 hours out of this movie. Well,
that means from now on they'll all be 2 hours, Connor. We will never have another one of these that is shorter than that.
Hour 45 because we spent 15 minutes talking about Twisters.
Well, look, you had said that we're talking about this for 2 hours. How? And I'm like, I expected this, baby. Like, this is us talking about movies.
And I'm sure there's some major stupid thing that I should have brought up that I didn't.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I have to say is S.J. Clarkson was saying, "Hey, this character's pretty quippy, right?" What about her catchphrase of "Sorry"? What a quip!
They should have
Remember when
put
she?
that on the poster.
Yeah, remember that part where she steals an ambulance and she's like, "Sorry, guys." And then like
Yeah.
later when she like runs in, uses the ambulance to, like run into somebody, she's like, "Ooh, sorry."
Do you notice how that's?
Yeah, she does it a lot.
I never caught that she kept saying that. Do you notice how that was like her prevailing strategy for everything? Steal a vehicle, run the villain down with
Yeah.
it, just over and over again.
Hmm.
I like
did
that
it twice.
The Madame Webmobile is just a stolen taxi for the longest time.
Yeah.
You gotta love that scene where, with no questions asked, Ben Parker is just standing next to that taxi talking to her. Like, that is a stolen vehicle. He's got no qualms with it. There's no. He's not like, where'd you get this? Why is it? Why is the fender bent in? Nothing.
Where did the license plates go?
You know, earlier when you just a minute ago, Connor, when you started a sentence with "you said," I really thought you were gonna break into song. We've
What is
got
that?
nothing in common. No common ground to start from, and we're breaking apart.
I said,
What about breakfast at Tiffany's? She said, I think I'm.
Remember the pill. That's a great note to end it on, guys.
And a word of advice for everybody: never go back and listen to that whole album. They were a one-hit wonder for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks a lot for listening, folks. We had a great time talking to you, not necessarily seeing the film. I want to thank everybody for that put in super chats tonight. Because I had to pay to see this movie, and that was really nice of you guys. I appreciate that.
Recouping those losses, baby.
We will be back again for another one of these real soon. There are several movies coming out, good and bad, that Connor and I really want to tackle. So we're gonna do what we can to do as many for you as we can this year. I can't think of what those movies are right now, but there are a few.
You want to see the Bob Marley movie, right?
I do want to see that. I don't know if I'm going to have time to do a review on it, or if anybody is going to care. But I would like to do that. I will try to go.
Twisters.
We'll see. Yeah, I do want to see Twisters. I mean, I don't actually want it, but I kind of do. I kind of want to see that. It's probably awful. Anyway. But yeah, there were a couple things before that movie where I was like, oh yeah, that's coming out. That looks cool. But I can't remember what. Obviously, Planet of the Apes will do, and Dune will do.
Yeah.
And I know you're excited about Furiosa. I'll see that.
I'm very, very excited for Furiosa. Yeah. It looks awesome.
But yeah, there were a couple other things I just can't remember now.
Yeah, me neither.
And then, of course, later in the year, we got Joker 2, and there's a few, in Deadpool 3, there's a few superhero things. There was something in March that I was like, oh, that's coming out this early?
I don't remember what it was.
Well, there was something pretty major that I was like...
Yeah, Dune's coming out in March, but I'm trying to think of something else. Yeah, no, I had the same thing, where it's like, I know there are big things coming down the pipeline, and I just, for whatever reason, cannot remember what they are. Like, I forgot about Argyle until 2 days before it was coming out.
Sorry, I'm going to look real quick, because... Oh, it's Ghostbusters.
Oh, that's March? Okay. Wow.
I think it's right at the end of March. I think it's like the 28th or
And
something.
Imaginary is also March, so we'll have
We're
to...
not going to Imaginary. Seeing that. Godzilla Kong is coming.
Yeah, I gotta watch the MonsterVerse movies. I've been watching the 60s movies, but I gotta go forward.
Good man, Jason. Good
Yeah.
man. Yeah, the 60s movies rule.
Anyway, appreciate you guys for getting it going. I was Captain Logan. This was my son
That
Jason.
was me.
And this was my good buddy Connor Nielsen.
Sorry.
And now we're gonna run somebody over with a truck. Okay, bye everybody.